Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be doing things a little differently. Normally I just do a straightforward review video, but see, the film I'm doing today is an interesting case, so this would be a little bit more on the video essay side. Before I continue though, click that subscribe button if you're interested in hearing my thoughts about various films, books, and even TV shows. So anyway, today we're going to talk about the latest MCU film, Eternals. Eternals is an interesting case because of all the criticism that came out before the film was even released. And so here's the question we're going to try to answer today. Was Eternals as bad as the critics and dude bros claimed? So let's start off first with the critics' opinions. This part will be spoiler free since a lot of these opinions and controversies already came out before the film was released. Also, they've been circulating the internet for quite some time now. Some of these criticisms were, well, a lot of them, were commenting on the representation in the film. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, you would have seen those screenshots from reviews of the film which were released before the film even hit theaters. So now, I don't know whether the reviews bashing the diversity of the cast and characters was satire or legit, but you clearly have some issues if you're going to bash on the diversity of the cast and characters. There was also some criticism regarding Gemma Chan's acting in the film. Now, acting criticisms should be valid, but, well, when you're commenting on how a female actress should be smiling more, it's high-key misogynistic as hell. I would include a screenshot of that post if I can find it again, but I'm sure it's still around somewhere on Twitter and Instagram. Now, moving on from the opinions, we'll look at the controversies. One of the controversies regarding the film was the inclusion of LGBT representation. It's 2021. Why are people still feeling like a gay agenda is being shoved down their throats when there is one or two gay characters in a sea of straight ones? But Marvel is under Disney. How is that kid friendly? If you guys are going to complain about a married gay couple sharing one kiss, I better see you also complaining about the straight couples kissing in Marvel and Disney films. Another controversy was the inclusion of a sex scene. I'll admit, I was quite shocked with it too. When I saw the post, I was like, there's a sex scene? But in a more confused way than horrified way, you know? It's certainly interesting to include a sex scene in a Marvel film, but I was curious to see how it would play out. And I have thoughts on it, which I will talk about later in the next part of this video. And finally, the official consensus on the critics' side of Rotten Tomatoes was a 47%, which, well, it means it's rotten. The thing with reviews and controversies is that it would shape how you watch the film. So you can try to claim that it's not going to be on your mind while you watch the film, but subconsciously, it would be. So even though I tried to ignore the reviews and controversies, I will admit I did have them in mind when I was watching the film. So what did I really think of the film? Well, this part contains spoilers, so you know the drill. Proceed with caution if you haven't watched the film and don't want to be spoiled. But here's my honest opinion on the film. It's not as horrible or disappointing as the critics made it out to be, but I didn't love the entire film either. But just because I thought it was okay didn't mean that I didn't love certain parts of it. There were a few things I loved, mainly the on-location shooting and the long shots. Those did wonders. It was just quite enjoyable, especially when you're establishing the location, and the long shots used were just beautiful. But with that being said, there were some drawbacks to on-location shooting, and the main thing that annoyed me was the lighting. At some points during the film, especially when they were in the Amazon, they used natural lighting. And I can understand the use of natural lighting in real-life locations because it would add to the vibe. But oh my goodness, I had to squint to just try and see clearly what was going on. And the fact that I watched the film in 3D and had to keep taking off the glasses because I thought it was a 3D glass that's messing with the clarity of the image on the screen, that was really the only thing that bugged me, technical aspect wise, that is. I also wasn't a fan of the pacing. With the film being 2.5 hours long, like it felt long. I mean, I get it because there was a lot of character and plot development, and you need to provide backstory for each member of the ensemble cast. There was a wee bit more character development than plot development though, so that made it feel like a lot longer in my opinion. But I absolutely loved the different relationships and dynamics in the film. My personal favorites were Athena and Gilgamesh, and Drig and Makari. So Athena and Gilgamesh, I'm not sure if they're platonic or romantic, but either way, I love them. Like, it was just so sweet of Gilgamesh to care for Athena for 500 years. And Drig and Makari, they absolutely stole the film in my opinion with their flirting and their banter. They better have a happy ending or else I'm throwing hands at Marvel. So going off of that point, I really wish that they could have focused on Athena, Makari, and Drig some more. They all had some really cool powers, but Athena and Makari were especially underused, and I really just wish that we got more of their characters because I adored them. That being said, and major spoilers ahead, I'm glad they weren't killed off like Ajak and Gilgamesh. Honestly, after seeing Ajak and Gilgamesh die, I genuinely thought that all of the Eternals would be killed off like one by one. We started with 10, and now there's 6. Ajak, Gilgamesh, and Icarus are dead. Then Sprite wanted to be human, so she's not an Eternal anymore. I would also like to say that I didn't see the twist with Icarus coming, even though I should have. A lot of the time, like, I should see things coming, but I'm always like no thoughts, brain empty when watching films or reading books. I didn't see it coming because Richard Madden usually plays the good guy, if I'm not mistaken. I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I'm assuming since he was a Stark that he was a good guy. And he played the prince in the 2015 Cinderella film. So just based on his previous roles, I thought he was a good guy, and I didn't see him betraying the rest of the Eternals, honestly. But I did enjoy his death because it was very poetic. Icarus died because he flew close to the sun, just like Icarus from the Greek myths. So those are my opinions, but I also have some responses to the critiques and controversies that I mentioned in the previous part of the video. So the complaints about forced diversity, it's a bunch of BS, honestly. The diversity, it came naturally and it wasn't forced or done for token points. These characters are diverse because it's how the world is. So A+ in that area. And the sex scene. People made too big of a deal out of it. I watched it and it was incredibly tame. I watched the film with my brother and my dad, by the way. So after the film, I brought up the sex scene and my brother went, "Wait, there was a sex scene?" So that should tell you that it's not as bad as people made it out to be. So to answer the question, no, Eternals was not as bad as the critics made it out to be. Yes, it had its weak points in the pacing and certainly in the lighting in some aspects, but the characters were great, the relationship and familial dynamics were enjoyable, and the representation was amazing. So really, sometimes the internet and critics can blow things out of proportion, which is why you should watch the film and decide for yourself what you think. I personally thought the film as a whole was okay. Not the best or the worst, but it had its moments that I enjoyed. And that's a wrap on Eternals. My next video will be up by the middle of December and it's going to be on Psych 3 This Is Gus. Thank you so much for watching and please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.